Welcome back. It is another edition of the Skol Marketing Podcast. We have Hunter, Abe, Drew here. We're going to talk about our area of expertise, a little social media, and perhaps the death of the follower. The follower in social media, guys. It's dying. It's not maybe as important as it was a few years ago. Let's dive right into that now. Okay, so the death of the follower is an interesting topic, right? So the traditional follower model of social media is kind of fading at this point, right? I mean, you kind of see that on various platforms, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You're kind of more gravitating towards your For You page. Your algorithm is feeding you things, and maybe your follower count isn't necessarily as vital as it has been in years past.
I completely agree. It's not nearly as important, especially with all the new discovery features, the algorithms, For You pages. It's sadly just not as important, and it's more just...
I mean, should it be important?
It definitely should be important, but it's just not as important, I think, as it used to be. I think they've definitely shifted where I think it was really important right away, where that's, the bigger your audience, the more your posts were being seen. Where now they've shifted towards, again, the discovery features where your follower base is not being prioritized. It's posting, but if it's not necessarily meant for the discovery feed, it's just not going to be seen. If it's not like a reel or a video, and I think it's really hard.
And you got to have probably you're closer to that just because of your YouTube channel. So that must be kind of frustrating when, you've built up this follower base, but then still some of that content's not being seen by, or it's not reflecting kind of what your channel is showing.
I think it's really frustrating. And I think a lot of people are struggling with it, especially people who don't want to post, really clickbaity or like content that's just like meant, Mr. Beastified content. I don't know what else to call it. But I think it's a pendulum. And I think we've definitely swung really far into, again, the discovery features. And I'm hoping that it'll kind of level out a little bit where you are going to still be able to reach your following, but also there are the discovery features, which are also very important because that's how you grow your audience is getting seen.
I feel like that sort of concept would be refreshing for someone who's just starting out, being like, oh yeah, I can hop on this social platform right now and I can get in front of 1,000 people with this one post, even though I have 0 followers, which to me, I think is super compelling and almost makes me want to do something with it, actually try to create content on some of those platforms that do prioritize that more algorithm-based discovery sort of thing. But I can absolutely see the side, like in your case, where, you've built up a channel and you've got 30K followers or something, and you're not getting that sort of that viewership anymore, which that'd be tough.
It is tough.
One angle that I think is kind of interesting is this idea of creators sort of renting their audience with consistently putting out new content, and the way that our algorithms are fixated these days, basically showing you new flashy content that is kind of designed to get you to these new creators. It's almost harder to keep your audience on your content, right? Like if they subscribe to you, sure, they'll see it. But when you go to your YouTube, for example, your YouTube recommended page, oftentimes it's not necessarily going to be your core subscriber group. It's going to be more so things that are based on what you've been watching recently or something that the algorithm thinks that you will enjoy. And that sort of, new formula is almost taking away from how vital it is from a consumer side to have that list of channels you subscribe to, right? Like it used to be, you have your 20 channels that you're subscribed to, and maybe that's all you see on YouTube. You maybe see adjacent videos, but up until recently, that algorithm hadn't really picked up on the wide array of different content that you can enjoy. And so I think that is kind of an interesting space to put creators in where, they don't necessarily have a huge stranglehold on their audience because there is so much content out there, and these algorithms have gotten so good and they show you kind of what you want, but also they show you videos that they know you're going to click on. You just can't resist, whether that's a catchy title, thumbnail, whatever it is. that content that really gets your attention is going to be served to you.
Yeah, it almost feels like it's that model is turning into like more feeding the beast rather than not
Feeding Mr. Beast.
Not Mr. Well, kind of, yeah. I mean,
Jimmy's hungry.
No, feeding kind of just like the platform itself, and having more of that capitalist model where, you know, it's trying to churn as much content that just keeps people there rather than, you know, relying on the creators themselves to rope people in.
I think especially if you're looking at YouTube for this example, it's interesting too how short form and long form content kind of serve different purposes, right? Mm-hmm. Like that short form, it's quick hitting, it's a quick dopamine hit. And also there is just so much short form content out there that if you were to scroll through YouTube Shorts for a half hour, you're going to interact with like 100 different channels, and many of them are new to you. So I think that short form is this insane tool that can really provide that reach and get new audience members. But an interesting kind of angle with that too, when you compare it to the long form, like a podcast or, you know, a half hour video, whatever the case may be, that's more where you can build up that relationship with your audience, right? Mm-hmm. That's where you kind of have the more personable side. It's not just the quick hitting information or the quick hitting fun video that gets you to stop on your feed. It's more so building that relationship. And I think that's an interesting space for creators to be in, where you kind of have no choice if you want to be a bigger content creator, but to go into both of those lanes. Mm-hmm. And it's just an interesting little, you know, complex on what you want to do, what do you want to focus on. And, you know, it's easy to see kind of the high viewer counts of shorts. I mean, we've even seen it here with some of our channels. Like it's really rewarding to see that. But the question is, you know, while these are getting a lot of views, are they people that are going to sub to our channel? Are they people that are going to stick around for those longer videos? And I think that's an interesting spot to put creators in at this moment.
Yeah. I mean, I think the short form content definitely does feel like renting an audience, whereas the longer form YouTube videos, even for my channel, the community I've built through my long form videos it's a lot more special. It's a lot more reliable. I don't feel like I'm renting them. Like they show up every time I post a video, they show up for it because I'm consistently getting the same number of views as I have subscribers or even more. So I think that makes me feel like, oh, like they're here, they're showing up. Whereas short form, I don't know who these people are. I don't know. Mm-hmm. A lot of the times they don't even understand what I'm posting. I still get their view, but they don't get it. They don't interact with it. Yeah. And if they do interact with it, it's negative, or they're like, what is this? That's wrong. And I'm like, you're not the right person for this. But, you know.
So as a YouTube creator, I'm curious, do you then place more weight on those interactions on your long form videos? Like if you were to get a comment and a like on a long form video versus a short, do you almost feel like that's more meaningful because it's people that are dedicated to your audience or dedicated to your content rather?
Absolutely. I think it's way more important, and it's more important. It's better engagement. And I think it's more important for me to interact with those types of people. I think.
I feel like short form is kind of like a net that, like, you know, it draws people in, or, you know, you kind of capture a lot of those fish in that net. And then those from there that are interested, you kind of like keep.
Yeah, totally.
Your cooler or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I kind of like seeing it because you seeing it in that way, because you need both. You need to be able to do the short form that is more of like the beastified stuff that like, ooh, that's a shiny new video that I want to look at. And then that's where you really need to show as much of your personality and as much of your brand into that like 30 to 90 second bit, which is really hard to do. But if you can do it effectively and efficiently, then like people actually want to stay. And that's when you do your long form, and then people are like, okay, now I feel at home here or whatever, and I want to check this channel out every week.
I almost look at the short form as like marketing tools versus like an actual platform where it's like I have a short, let's say I'm promoting a podcast or promoting a new short movie I made, or even like a YouTube channel where it's like promoting the small clips again, because you can cast a wide net. Let's say it gets like 5,000 views. 5 or 10 of them might then go over to your YouTube channel, subscribe, interact with that content. And yes, maybe the other thousands didn't, but you know, you still gained.
You're still going up.
In those people that did subscribe or watched your short film or now are going to listen to your podcast. I mean, that's good. That's dedicated fans. That's what you want in the long term.
I think there's almost another layer to that too, based on, you get those people in, like you said, Drew, you cast the net with the shorts and then you keep the ones, you don't throw them back, the ones that subscribe and, stick around for that long form content. But then there's another angle of sort of the exclusive clubs that is your real dedicated audience that will, buy your merch or subscribe to your Patreon, doing things like that. And I think that's sort of a new step in this creator economy of not only having that dedicated audience for your niche, but also getting them to engage and turning the subscriber count into money with things like Patreon.
It's literally
or merch.
a marketing funnel, but videofied, which is kind of interesting to think about.
The idea to Patreon paycheck, basically, is what it gets to.
I like that. That's good.
So from a consumer side, I know I personally have gone through that journey myself with creators that I really enjoy, specifically podcasters, right? Like I'll become a fan of a podcast and then they start releasing exclusive episodes just for their Patreon audience. And because I'm such a fan and already ingrained in their niche and their culture, I have no problem spending an extra $1 or $5 a month to get more content, more episodes. And I think it's just sort of an interesting journey that you take without even maybe realizing it as a consumer of this content. And it's just such a beautiful way to kind of grow and evolve a business and incorporate that entrepreneurial spirit into your creations as well.
Yeah. I think you got to communicate that in the right way. Otherwise, it feels sometimes like you're putting up a paywall and people don't like that necessarily. You know what I mean? So remind me how Patreon works. Is that where you can pay what you think it's worth, or is it like they actually put like a set paywall on?
So they set it up a little different by each one. Some that I'm subscribed to, it's like $5 a month, or you can pay like $25 a month, and maybe they'll, if it's like a comedian or something, they'll make sure they get you a ticket, or you have early access to tickets when they come to your city, or whatever the case may be. There's also another great local podcast that I listen to focused on the Minnesota Twins. And their model is actually they release one free episode a week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and then every episode after that is $1 a piece. So their Patreon is basically pay per episode, and it's $1 per episode. And they really ramp it up during baseball season where, it's not necessarily every conversation isn't really evergreen because the baseball season evolves. And so basically they have their audience, their special club of Twins fans that follow their content, and every week they put out 2 or 3 episodes at $1 a clip, and I've watched them grow, and I've been a subscriber to their Patreon since 2019 when they started it, and just seeing the evolution of that, and even on the Patreon platform itself, a really cool feature of that is sort of the community there where they'll post an episode and people will have a discussion about not only the episode but create their own discussions about the Twins and kind of what they think about it. So Patreon's a really cool space. Generally speaking, I mean, $1 to $5, I think, is generally what you're going to be paying for a monthly subscription. If you're already that big of a fan, it's worth it, I would say.
Yeah. No, it's a great platform because it's very flexible in the creator. So like you can really customize it to yourself and to your fan base. And I think if you know your fan base well, you can really be successful with it. And again, I think, for podcasts, I mean, it's like, I get my free one for the week, but then there's also a bonus one. So if I join their Patreon again, like I get a bonus one. So that's 2. 1 was free, or you can get like 2 free and then you can pay for a third one. But I mean, it's, like Hunter said, it's like $1 a month sometimes. Like it's so like compared to like the streaming platforms you pay for. Yeah. And this money's going straight to the creator, just like another artist or
that's cool.
Your average Joe,
I think maybe the most key part of that too is understanding that you shouldn't just create a Patreon rate when you start your podcast, right? You want to be able to build that audience, get people that are consistently coming in, having sort of that audience awareness of who your audience is, how often they're coming, and do they have a thirst for more content as well. And let's be real, I mean, I wouldn't pay $5 for content that isn't good. I'm already kind of hook, line, and sinker into this creator's work. And therefore, because it's so quality and that sort of exclusivity that comes with a Patreon or other similar platforms, it just makes that decision pretty easy when you're already that into it.
I think this is a good time to announce that our Patreon link is in the description below. Throw us $5 each. That'd be great. One thing that's just churning in my brain from this conversation is like the pay for what you think it's worth model. I think that's kind of emerging more. Like I know Bandcamp does it. There's that Rocket Money thing that does it as well. And I'm curious to see like at the end of the day, what would make more money for a content creator that's like putting out like super good content. You know what I mean? Like if it is that set, like, okay, you pay 99 cents a month, or it's just like a pay for what you think it's worth. And it could even be, maybe you set it at like, 99 cents being the lowest. I don't know. Or even at nothing. And then just seeing like kind of how if people donate, someone might give you a big donation, like $200 or something. You know what I mean? And now that's 200 subscribers, essentially. It's kind of like that Twitch model, when you give people subs. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that sort of model.
Yeah, I have actually experienced that with Bandcamp before. There was an album that came out a few years ago that I really wanted to listen to, but because of certain samples that were used on it, it wasn't cleared to go on Spotify. Mm-hmm. So I went on a Bandcamp and I paid, I think, like $1 for it, which was, appropriate at the time. But I think to your point, Drew, I think that opens up the door to people that are huge, like super fans that maybe have a little bit more income. They could really boost that creator, and maybe even, with that money, that creator could go and make even more stuff that they like.
Yeah.
So I think that is interesting, right? Like with a Patreon model, it's kind of capped, you're paying $5 a month, you just kind of check it off. But if they're giving you sort of that exclusive opportunity to pay what you want, I think that opens up the door for those really passionate super fans to, open up their wallets a little bit and really show their support monetarily.
It's probably more rare to see that, but still, I mean, if you can really get people to love what you do, I'm sure there's going to be a fraction of those people that really want to support you and see you get to the next level. So it's really about like how you communicate your brand, how you communicate your story, and just like continuously put out good stuff, and people will, eventually really adhere to that and want to help you.
So thinking about getting your content in front of an audience, there was a poll that recently came out that said over 78% of creators feel that algorithms dictate their creative decisions. By that, of course, I know you guys understand that basically means that creators are really maybe not having full control over what they're doing. They're more so trying to satisfy that algorithm and get into in front of as many eyes as possible. And that's kind of a two-pronged question, I guess. Do you think that kind of takes away from the purity of the creative pursuit of creating that content? And also, is it fair to say, as social media coordinators or YouTubers, is that fair to say that you're not necessarily always creating what you think is maybe best or your personal favorite? It's more so just to satisfy that algorithm. What do you guys think?
I feel like Abe knows this one pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to create content you don't necessarily have to create content for the algorithm, but you have to keep the algorithm in mind when creating content. I don't know if I said the exact same thing, but like you have to, like I'm not just out creating random videos, even for like sports legends or like posting on their YouTube channel. Like I'm thinking about how to create a thumbnail that's going to be appealing because of the algorithm. I'm thinking about the title and like the content of the video. And like, I'm not going to put something on the internet that I don't think is going to be entertaining to some degree. And I think, yeah, as an artist and creator, you definitely should be keeping those things in mind. And I do think it dictates your work a little bit. And there are times where I don't create something because I'm like, I just don't know how I'm going to put that on YouTube.
That's so tricky too, because there's almost like three angles that you have to go with. You have to, as a creator, you think about what you like and what you want to create. You think about what your audience likes and what your audience would like to see you create. And then there's also the element of satisfying that algorithm so that it pushes out your content to the most people possible.
That's with everything.
I know. There's
writing a book, making a movie. Like you always have to think about every side of it.
I mean, it's intense, but also, and they talked about it in the video as well, but like, and I also agree with this, we're like now truly is the best time to be a creative person with all the different platforms out there to showcase your work and to market yourself. There's so many hoops you don't have to jump through anymore. Like back in the day, if you wanted to create a movie, you'd have to like spend 10 years in the film industry doing grunt work for just maybe one opportunity to pitch a movie just for it to get denied. Whereas now, you know, you can buy all of this equipment yourself, start a podcast yourself, film a movie yourself, put it on YouTube, market it on TikTok, and get 1 million views. Like it's easier said than done, but I mean, it's being done every single day.
It's very doable.
So if you have to jump through some small hoops of making sure your content's okay for an algorithm, I'm like, I'd rather take that than what it was years ago.
I feel like no matter what, though, there's always this there's a bit of luck that's involved with, you know, blowing up on any social media platform. Like it just has to hit the right person at the right time that, you know, maybe has already like a wide influence, and then they're sharing it, or you know what I mean? And then it just blows up.
Oh, yeah. There's so much luck involved. Yeah. Even like looking at our Sports Legends YouTube channel, and like, I think just the success of the Vikings, which is something we have zero control in, but because they were successful, our content did better on YouTube because people were Googling it more. They were looking up videos. Like the Vikings were doing well. So I'm sure more people were online looking up Vikings highlights to just like continue that excitement. Stumbled across our YouTube channel. We get 40,000 views. The videos surrounding that video do really well. But now the Vikings, you know, the season's over. So our videos are declining, like our viewership is declining. But like, it's not necessarily declining, but it was just a really high point where we got really lucky.
So I want to take a look at our previous video that just went out on our Instagram last week at Skol Marketing. We created a Full House spoof with our team. We showcased our brand, we showcased our people, and put it to the tune of the Full House intro. And that video has performed pretty well compared to other content that we've done in the past. And I want to get your guys' opinion on why you think that video in particular struck a chord with our audience in this marketing agency world, but also small business and community building.
I think just anytime you're seeing the faces of a business makes you engage with it a little bit more. It feels more personable, makes you feel kind of at home. And then you're like, especially when you're seeing multiple people or like a whole team rather than just like, you know, us three, which I mean, eventually you're going to love this stuff. But yeah, I think seeing a whole team, especially like people that, you know, are within our network, seeing like Ben, you know, wiping down his Camaro, and Marty holding the Frisbee with a funny smile. I don't know. I think it just like, it gets people inside your business. It gets people inside your culture, which then, you know, naturally makes people want to engage with you more.
Definitely. And I think, kind of like I said earlier, of like when you're making content, what like the things to keep in mind. I think that video did a really good job of, you know, it's something that we wanted to make because it was fun. It was easy for us to make. An audience likes to see that sort of thing. Everyone knows what Full House is, whether they watched it or not. They know the theme song. So when that pops up on their screen, they're going to be like, oh, I know it. This is funny. This is kind of a funny thing. So an audience is going to like that. And I think it was also utilized, like it was made, it was made well for the algorithm, where I think the quick cuts, it wasn't that long of a video. It was shot the right way. Like it was, what's the word I'm looking for? Optimized. Like it was optimized pretty well for the algorithm. So I think it hit those 3 points pretty well. And again, especially like Drew said, seeing people at a company is one of the best ways to find success.
Yeah, and I think that almost kind of like brings us to a greater point that we grapple with on a regular basis, creating social media content for our clients, is showing that human side, right? Now, things have become really easy for people to post on social media just using AI. You know, you can pretty easily tell when something doesn't have a lot of human, I don't want to say effort, but human energy behind it, right?
Yeah, right.
There's certain keys, certain ways that AI writes, its diction, its emoji use. And I think ultimately people who have a keen eye are kind of growing a little bit tired of that. So being able to kind of break that up and showcase smiling humans doing the video, and in the video, it's just it's a breath of fresh air, right? It's like this beautiful spring weather we're having in Minnesota. It makes you excited. It makes you feel alive again. Mm-hmm. And it sort of gives you a reason to dig deeper and learn more about the company.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think it's noteworthy knowing that, like, yes, AI is great at content right now, or just at trying to model human sort of content, especially if you're writing blogs and stuff. There are dead giveaways, obviously, like the emoji use. But the one thing that AI just can't do is video. You know, to an extent, you know what I mean? Like it can, but you can tell pretty quickly if it was an AI video or not. And so I think that's in 2025 and beyond, until I guess AI gets smart enough to really replicate that human creativity, which is like so hard to, you know, it's just so complex, just the ideas that we can come up with, that I feel like that's way down the line for AI to ever sort of replicate. So I think in 2025, video is going to continue to blow up, and, you know, just having that marketing side where you're, you know, putting your faces on the camera and showing that this is real. This isn't just robots typing at a keyboard or, you know, digital keyboard, I think is going to be beneficial. So, yeah.
As we're talking about the death of the follower, I think maybe we should give some advice, some quick tips on, you know, if you're struggling, if you have this following, let's say maybe, you know, whether it's 500 or a couple thousand or maybe even more, but like, what are some tips on how to reach your audience? Because you can, it's not impossible. It's not, your followers aren't actually all dead. They're still there and they do still support your content, but how can you reach them? How do you get your video or post in front of their eyes?
I think one way to do it is to study your analytics. Check your tracking, your data. Be sure to kind of understand what videos do well and really dissect that and see why they do well. Try to create more of that content. Take the best things you did on that video, grow on it, and you'll eventually, you know, 5x, 10x those views down the road with, you know, kind of using that successful formula. And, you know, it's maybe not always the sexiest thing to look at, but staying on top of your data, understanding your audience behavior, I think goes a long way in just sort of like understanding and growing off of that.
And just being consistent as well, and not getting discouraged. You know, when you are not seeing the numbers that you want, just continuing. If you think it's great, like continuing down that line until you're like, okay, we got to maybe try something new. And then when you are trying something new, seriously, don't be afraid to experiment and get different pieces of content out there that could appeal to different audiences. You really want to try and cover all your bases when it comes to, you know, your creative. And then, you know, going back to, okay, so this worked. This didn't really. Like, I still like this idea and I might, you know, use that in the future, but now I'm going to really hone in on this side. And video, of course, definitely move into video if you're not right now. Yeah, because every social media platform has video.
Yeah, video is important.
I think also going back to what Abe brought up earlier with it being a great time to be a creator, there are so many creators out there. And I don't think there's any shame in taking pieces from what content creators you like and what they do and using that in your own. It's this big open economy and it's sort of free range, right? I mean, of course, you know, you're not necessarily going to be successful if you're a carbon copy of a popular channel. Of course, be yourself and play to your own audience. But, you know, we talk a lot about beastification and how like thumbnails have kind of changed the game there. And being able to sort of like dissect what makes a good thumbnail on a Mr. Beast video, for example, and kind of using that in your own could be a strategy to kind of grow as well.
Yeah. One video that comes to mind after you said that is I've seen this video of people going up to a door and there's a caption that says, "We don't have to raise our hands when you realize you don't have to raise your hand to knock." What? And so like, yeah, it's super stupid, but I've seen like literally 5 renditions of the exact same video. And then I'll look in the margins and it's at like 1 million likes. And I'm like, who's the original? Like, I don't even know where this originates, but it's blowing up for people. So, I mean, you can plagiarize in a way, but if you're, I guess that's, I'm advocating for plagiarizing right now, but it's like, no one really owns anything nowadays. Like, and you can't really draw it back to the main originator. So it's like, do things that are popular. Obviously you need to have some ethics behind it. You can't just copy everything, but don't be afraid to, you know, have some of those elements where you're kind of, pulling from other inspirations and making it your own.
I'm kind of curious. I've noticed this with my own YouTube algorithm that there are some videos that whether or not I've watched them, they continuously pop up in my algorithm. And they're these long-lasting evergreen content that just stick on my algorithm like a popcorn kernel in your teeth after you've been eating popcorn. There's this video. It's called like making a late night grilled cheese, chorizo grilled cheese. And it has a very basic thumbnail. The thumbnail is literally just a picture of a grilled cheese on like a blacktop skillet, whatever. And it's not like a super high quality video, but it has like 5 million views and it continuously gets fed to me. And so do you guys
have you eaten it yet?
No, I haven't.
Maybe I'll
I
stop
haven't.
when you eat it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Have you guys noticed that at all in your own algorithms? Like a video that, whether or not you've watched it, just continuously pops up and never leaves?
Hold on, Hunter. Is this it? Late Night Chorizo Grilled Cheese by Kenji Lopez?
Yep.
I got the same one.
No way.
That comes up in my
That is
algorithm
so funny.
on my recommended page at least like once a month.
I saw it like 2 or 3 times on my page. I mean, he actually has really great
Is it
content.
sponsored?
No, he's got.
I think it's just a banger.
Just a banger. He's just making
I mean,
grilled
he's
cheese,
got
slinging grilled cheese.
1.66 million subscribers. I think.
Wow.
I know him. He's got good cooking videos. But
That's
it is like
crazy.
low quality, just GoPro footage, though. It's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why that's popping up all the time, though.
Well, that's another point, is that if you are scared to start video, it doesn't have to be the most high quality video in order to pop off. It's really about like just creating a story or something that makes people laugh, or, you know, is super insightful, or sharing information that, you know, you think a lot of people are going to like. But everyone's got a computer in their pocket. Just don't be afraid to pull that out and kind of just film.
I think just lastly, my advice, especially to like businesses or people who like don't want to be on camera, or just like, because, you know, it's not always easy or fun to be on camera. And if you don't want to be the face of your business, that's fine. But I still think it's good to show at least some sort of humanity to your business. Show the projects you're working on, before and after photos, your product photos, just like show what you do. Images of your company. If you have a coffee shop, show your coffee shop. Whatever's relevant to your business, you know, you got to show something that people can relate to. And I think like that's what works best, I think.
For sure.
I've got a question I kind of want to end on. So
Yeah.
we were all born in the 90s and we grew up kind of alongside of the evolution of YouTube and these other social media platforms in the 2000s and 2010s when we were coming of age. I have a memory of the first YouTube video I ever watched. I can share that, but I'm curious, what is the oldest YouTube memory you have? Do you remember the first video you watched? Do you remember the first sort of like viral sensation that caught your eye that you were talking about at school? What are some of those old school YouTube memories that you want to share?
It's a magical Leo player down, Charlie.
Yeah, there's a lot of classics.
Is that like the magic leprechaun or something like that? Or what is
Magic
it?
That was
Dragon?
the
Unicorn?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's Unicorn, Harry Potter Puppet Pals.
Oh my God.
But one I just thought of the other day is Fred with the really
Fred,
high-pitched
yes.
voice. Fred.
He made it on iCarly.
Yeah, he was on iCarly. He was just like
about Fred.
such a deep, like, what happened? I hope he's doing okay.
Yeah, hopefully.
That might be the thumbnail of this video.
Fred, how you doing, man?
Where's Fred?
Colin,
Where's
we'd love to
Fred?
have you on the show.
Find Fred. Bring him in.
I think the oldest YouTube memory I have, I don't remember if it's the very first video I ever watched, but Charlie bit my finger, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what a moment. Such a simple video. It was literally, right, it was like their dad filming them, just kids playing around, and there wasn't much to it. Obviously, it's like a raw video. There's not really any editing, and that became like one of the
Glory
first viral sensations. And it's so interesting to see how far we've come with that, because if that video had come out today, first of all, who knows if it would have ever even gone viral. I mean, it's not like that crazy of a video. It's just a kid biting the other kid's finger. But also, I wonder if it would have had that stickiness effect that the chorizo grilled cheese video has, where it just pops
Nice
up in
pun.
everyone's algorithm. I don't know. It's interesting to think about, like,
Yeah.
if that video had been published in 2020 instead of 2006 or whatever. I mean, would we even still remember it? Would it have even
No.
escaped?
It's just so much more content.
It would have maybe done well, and it would have maybe blown up on TikTok, but stuff blows up on TikTok every day, and it's just like, even like, think about it. Think about like viral TikToks you've seen. I can't remember. Like, there's too many. That's the thing. And I remember YouTube videos, long form content. I don't remember TikToks I've seen. Like,
Yeah.
like, because there's just so many. It's too saturated. Like,
It is saturated.
it's in and it's out, and I just like don't really think about it again.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like an inherent flaw of the short form content. I mean, we've kind of sung its praises at points in this conversation, but also to that point, Abe, yeah, you are just kind of, in a sense, mindlessly scrolling, trying to consume as much as you can in a short period of time while you have some downtime versus kind of the intentionality of that old school YouTube video where you would get home from school or whatever and you would search up that video. You would specifically seek it out because you heard about it at school or whatever. And therefore it kind of becomes more ingrained in the fabric of your mind and sort of what you like as a consumer versus TikTok where, yeah, you might see a sweet video and you might like it or save it or whatever, but it doesn't necessarily have that same aura that the old YouTube had.
Yeah. I feel like that's why, in my opinion, YouTube is my favorite social media platform. I mean, aside from Facebook Marketplace, don't even get me started. But it is that, like, it's a funnel. It's more of a funnel than just like mindless scrolling or doom scrolling. It's like, okay, yeah, you get the net out, but then you bring people in and then you're like, they're part of your family at that point. And then you can convert them further to, you know, checking out your website or stuff like that. So
Glory days.
Snipe. Severus Snape.
That's a good one.
Dumbledore. Ron Weasley.
Hermione.
All right, I'll start with the beat. You guys ready?
Yep.
Snape. Severus Snape. Severus Snape.
Dumbledore.
Snape.
Run.
Snape.
Run.
Snape.
Run.
Severus.
Dumbledore.
Snape. Severus
Tune
Snape.
in next week where this is all we do.
Or maybe Hermione goes, Hermione. I don't remember.
And I know Harry Potter goes, Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Skol Marketing Podcast. We hope you had as much fun listening to this conversation as we did recording it. Be sure to subscribe and follow our social media channels at Skol Marketing for all that good content that you do not want to miss. And check out our full house video to get an inside look at the happenings at Skol Marketing. We'll see you next time.